Pretty much every year in baseball, you see teams across the league exceed their initial expectations. It's just bound to happen as obviously not every team is expected to win lots of games. And so far this year, in my opinion, the Texas Rangers are a team that has exceeded expectations up to this point. And today I'm going to be looking at Texas's roster top to bottom, and at the end I'm going to discuss whether I think they're a legit postseason contender or not. And real quick before we get into the video, if you guys do enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe. I post plenty of baseball videos here, and I'm going to continue to do so going forward. So with that in mind, let's hop right into this. First, let's look at Texas offensively. They aren't the best team offensively as they currently have a .693 team OPS, which is 20th in all of baseball. They do, however, have some very good power as they currently have 92 home runs as a team, which ranks 8th in the league. As for their individual bats offensively, they have Corey Seager, who they signed to a huge contract this offseason. So far, Seager has been alright. He hasn't been great as he's currently hitting .231 to go along with 15 home runs. The power is definitely there with Seager. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him hit 30 plus home runs, but you would expect a lot more than a .231 average. Marcus Semien, their other huge free agent signing this offseason, has also gotten off to a relatively slow start, but as of late he's been picking it up. All in all, Semien is hitting .231 to go along with 8 home runs and 12 stolen bases. They also have Adolis Garcia, who has been very good this year and arguably has been their best offensive bat. Up to this point, Garcia is hitting .259 to go along with 15 home runs and 11 stolen bases. So if he keeps this up, he could really have a 30 home run, 30 stolen base season, and in my opinion, he's been one of the most underrated offensive players in baseball this year. As for their catcher, they have one of the best offensive catchers in the game this year in Jonah Heim. Heim has been a pleasant surprise as up to this point, he's hitting .250 to go along with 10 home runs. Nathaniel Lowe has also been very good this year as all in all he's hitting .282 to go along with 10 bombs. And they also have a few other players who don't have the highest expectations in the world but have been playing relatively well. Cole Calhoun so far is hitting .240 to go along with 8 home runs, and he's been providing them with some solid defense in the outfield. Brad Miller has 7 home runs to go along with 4 stolen bases, and he's been a lot better than expected. Mitch Garver, who I believe platoons between the DH and catcher position, currently has 8 home runs on the year. So like I said before, the Rangers have one of the most powerful offenses in baseball. They have a lot of guys who can hit lots of home runs. And in today's game, I think that's a real advantage to Texas because you see teams like the Yankees, they're by far the best team in the league this year, and they have a lot of powerful bats throughout their lineup, so I think it's a real important factor in offense these days. Now let's take a look at their pitching. As a whole, Texas has been middle of the pack when it comes to pitching as they currently have a 3.93 team ERA, which ranks 16th in all of baseball. As for their starting rotation, Martin Perez has broken through and is looking like one of the best pitchers in the American League. So far in 93 innings, he has a 2.22 ERA to go along with 77 strikeouts. I think at this point Perez is a lock for the All-Star game, and if he keeps this up all season long, I wouldn't be surprised to see him finish top 3 in the American League Cy Young voting. They also have Jon Gray, who got off to a slow start but lately has been picking things up. All in all, in 72 innings, Gray has a 3.89 ERA to go along with 76 strikeouts. I think Gray was a very good pickup considering he always pitched in Colorado, so I think now that he's not at Coors Field half his games, he's going to be a lot better of a pitcher, and I think he's only going to get more comfortable as the season goes on. They also have Dane Dunning, who so far in 82 innings has a 4.17 ERA to go along with 74 strikeouts. As for the back end of their starting rotation, it's not the best in the world as they currently have Glenn Otto and Taylor Hearn, who both have ERAs north of 5. So if Texas does find themselves in a situation where they're buying at the trade deadline, I think that's one thing they would definitely need to address. Now let's take a look at Texas's bullpen. The bullpen has been very good this year as they currently have a 3.43 bullpen ERA, which ranks 9th in all of baseball. Joe Barlow has been a very good closer up to this point as he's locked down 13 saves to go along with a 2.84 ERA. Brock Burke has really broken out and been one of the best relievers in the American League up to this point, as in 37 innings he has a 1.23 ERA to go along with 40 strikeouts. And they've also gotten great production out of guys like Dennis Santana and Matt Moore, who both have ERAs below 2.5. So when looking at Texas as a whole, their offense isn't great, but it's definitely not bad, and their pitching is sort of middle of the pack, but their bullpen really stands out. And to answer the question of whether I think they're contenders or not, I think they could be. As currently constructed, I'm not too sure they're as good as other teams that they would need to pass up, like the Rays, Red Sox, or Blue Jays. I'm not saying it's impossible, I think there's definitely a chance, but I would be a little bit surprised if they did end up in the playoffs. But I'm really rooting for Texas. I like this team a lot, especially considering they haven't been to the postseason since 2016. It's been a while for Texas fans, and I really do think they deserve it. So even if Texas does miss out on the postseason this year, it's definitely going to be a big step forward in the right direction considering they lost 100 plus games last year. And I also want to mention that they have a bright future as well, as they currently have the 12th ranked farm system in all of baseball. They have lots of talent in the minor leagues on the way, as they have players like Jack Leader, Josh Young, Cole Winn, Ezekiel Duran, and Justin Fosk. So yeah, Texas up to this point, in my opinion, has been exceeding expectations. They currently sit at 36-38, and they're only 4 games back of Tampa Bay for the 3rd wildcard spot. I would love to see them make the playoffs. I just don't know if they're talented more than the teams that they have to leapfrog to get there, but I would love to see it. And if you know me, you know that I'm big on run differential. Up to this point, Texas has a plus 14 run differential, so I think they are a team that could potentially catch fire in the second half if they do make some moves at the deadline and maybe catch Tampa Bay, Boston, or Toronto. Let me know what you think of Texas down below, whether you think they have a shot at the postseason or not. As always, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.